Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. Verse 8, Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witness. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God, not any. And then reading down in verse 9, they that make a graven image are all of them vanity, and their delectable things shall not profit. And they are their own witnesses, they see not nor know that they may be ashamed. Who have formed a god or molten a graven image that is profitable for nothing? And it goes on speaking of how the workmen would fashion a god with their own hands. So these gods were made with men's hands. Picking it up in verse 14. He heweth him down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengtheneth for himself. Among the trees of the forest he planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. You know, you might want to even underline that. I just did. About the cypress and the cedars and the oaks. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he will take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god and worshippeth it. He maketh it a graven image, and falleth down hereto. Now, here we see in Isaiah how they would cut a tree out of the forest. A cypress or a fir or an oak tree, and fashion that tree into a god and worship that tree. And verse 17, it reads, And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image he falleth down unto and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and say, Delivereth me, for thou art my God. And then finally at the bottom of verse 19, I have roasted flesh and eaten it, and shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stalk of a tree? So this was an early form of tree worship, done at the time of Israel, and it was for these kind of things that Israel was taken away out of their land because of the defilement of their temple. Jeremiah talks about it as well. Of course, we have Jeremiah chapter 10. That's quite well known, I believe. Verse 2, which speaks, Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. And what do they do with it? They deck it with silver and with gold. And they decorate it. And they fasten it with nails and with hammers that it moveth not. They are upright as a palm tree. Now the palm tree was worshipped in Egypt. So this was also done in other countries with different trees. But speak not, they must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Then we got verse 8, But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stalk, which is the tree, that's what the stalk is the doctrine of vanities. Silver spread unto plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of workmen in the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their clothing. They are all the work of cunning men. So they would take these trees, and they would bring the most precious and beautiful decorations, the gold and the silver, from faraway coasts. They would go to a lot of trouble to adorn these trees. And of course put the blue and purple clothing on them. But the Lord, verse 10, is the true God. He is the living God and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. So we see early forms of this going on. And we have many, many examples. I'll give you a few quick ones. Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 25, where it speaks of Israel loving strangers, and of course, with strangers, the strange things that go along with them. Verse 27 of Jeremiah chapter 2, saying to a stalk, "Thou art my father," saying to a tree, "Thou art my father," and to a stone, "That has borne me," or brought me forth. Right? They have turned their back on God. They have turned their back unto me, and not their face. But in the time of their trouble, they will arise and save us. So they're going to expect these images somehow to save them. But they've forgotten God. In verse 32, can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number. So Israel had gone after these false idols. We pick it up in chapter 3 and verse 6. And the Lord said unto me in the days of Josiah the king, Hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel hath done? She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there has played the harlot. And so that's what they would do. They would go up on these high mountains and worship under the green tree. Now, why don't they just call it tree? Worship under the tree. The reason they called it the green tree is this tree would stay alive and green all through the year. So the green tree is actually speaking of cedars, fir trees, this type of tree. And Israel was accustomed to worship in that form. Deuteronomy 12:2, same thing. Deuteronomy 12:2. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree. You see, our God gave Israel command that when Israel would come into the land and possess it, that they would utterly destroy all the things of those nations that had been in the land before them, including the destruction of all these high places of false worship and all these places of worship under green trees. Because the practice of false worship under green trees was a very, very old practice that had occurred before Israel even came into the land itself. That's how ancient it is. Unfortunately, Israel did not purge the land of all the things of the nations, did not cleanse the land like God asked them to, but instead went whoring after the same practices of these other nations, and would plant actually their own green tree groves and have worship in these trees.